Hello and welcome to the September EMEA Talos Monthly Threat Update. Each month we tackle a topic that is top of mind for the security industry and we provide some insights. So today we are talking about cybersecurity insurance. So what are the things that you should consider as an organization if you're looking at purchasing insurance and how it potentially plays a role in the case of a data breach? So Martin Lee is here to give his perspective on those things, and Martin is EMEA's lead for Talos strategic planning and communications. So talk me through the potential environment circumstances that might happen should an organization suffer a security attack which results in a data breach. How does cybersecurity insurance play a role in that unfortunate circumstance?
So this is the key question, and I think this all comes down to being well prepared. In advance, you want to identify what other services might you need if you suffered a breach. What are they going to be? I mean, let's face it. Breaches are rare. You would hope that this is going to be a once in a career event. They're not something that happens every day. They are something which is rare. So you're probably thinking, if you're thinking about insurance, oh, well, I'm not quite sure what to do, and this is something unlikely, therefore I'll just insure it. I think if you're thinking that, you're probably on the right lines. But first, actually work out what services would you need. So firstly, in terms of hands-on cyber operations people, I would assume that you have some kind of cyber DevOps or operations capability. Otherwise, you probably wouldn't be thinking about the insurance. So firstly, think, well, what else might we need? Chances are, if you suffered a breach, you probably wouldn't have the incident response people already inside your organization. So you'll need an incident response capability. You may well need some sort of forensic capability to actually trace what happened and who was responsible. You're going to need some sort of legal advice, because there may well be people that you need to formally notify and notify within certain delays. So that's something that you may well need extra help with. And almost certainly you're going to need help with communications. Who are you going to tell? What is it that you're going to say? How are you going to manage this event and present this externally? So these are all things that you might not have at the moment at your disposal, but that you might want to have that insurance so that you can pay for these when these happen.
Let's say we've got someone watching and cybersecurity insurance is something that they are looking now to consider, and they're Googling away, looking at potential solutions. What are some of the questions that they should be asking cybersecurity insurance providers?
I think before you get to the cybersecurity provider, you need to have costed up the scenario. How much would you need in such an event? That's also a very, very good exercise to consider what you already have. If you already have an internal legal team, or you have a legal organization on a retainer, you might not need getting external or extra legal advice. The same with PR. If you've already got a PR function in-house, or you work together with a communications agency, chances are you're already paying for them, and they would be able to help you. So the first thing is to sit down and do that exercise, identify what is it that you would need. Then identify what is it that you don't already have. You may well find out that a lot of these functions that you think that you're going to need in such an event, especially if you're a cybersecurity professional, you might not deal a lot of the time with a legal function. But find out what you already have. And you might be surprised at how little extra you would need to come in. And I think once you've identified all of the services that you need, all of the services that you already have and your organization's already paying for, we can then look, what is it that's extra that you're going to need? And it's that extra risk and those extra costs that you need to insure about. We should also say there's also may well be fines and other payments that you might have to make. Again, that's something to factor into your insurance calculations.
Yeah, absolutely. So someone who is looking at purchasing cybersecurity insurance, they're possibly of the mentality that it's best to be proactive in these cases. And you mentioned incident response earlier, and we often kind of think of that as the reactive element of security, the teams who come in after the fact. So can we talk about how you can possibly be proactive with insurance, but also incident response as well?
It's unlikely that you're going to have instant response capability in-house. If there is a breach, yes, you probably want to have the the incident response capability coming in. However, it's not necessarily something which is available on tap. You can't just press a button necessarily and have the instant response people arrive. And even if your insurance had paid out immediately and you had a big suitcase full of cash, you might not necessarily be able to have the instant response people on site doing that work immediately. A lot of these things, a lot of these services are provided on a retainer basis, so that you have an SLA that if you have an issue, you can get on the phone and you can have someone come in within that delay, rather than you rocking up and knocking on the door and saying, help, I have a problem. You may find, and it's not impossible, that there won't be the instant response capability people available because they're already allocated. Even if there was, this is something that takes a bit of preparation. You want your instant response people to be familiar with the systems that you have. I mean, this will gain you time. In an emergency situation, it's all about time and gaining time so you're one step ahead of the bad guys. You don't want to be having to take the time to brief your instant response people in the middle of the emergency, because there's going to be lots of things going on. If the instant response people know who you are, your systems, you've spoken to them about what kind of tools they might need or what tools you've already got so that they're familiar with it, it'll make that management of the incident so much faster and so much easier. The other thing to think about is rehearse, practice. We're all hoping that this is something that won't happen. You've got a cyber operations and a cyber defense capability to reduce the likelihood of this happening. But if you're thinking about insurance, we're still open to the idea that this is still a risk. And if it is a risk, then rehearse it. Go through, check, do that walkthrough, phone people and say, hey, look, I'm rehearsing a cybersecurity incident. If I were to phone you up and say, look, I need your help here, would you be able to do this? What could you provide? How quickly would that be provided? Would you know what to do? So you can walk through in advance what happens during the incident, what services you need, fix any problems in advance.
Yeah, absolutely. That mentality of dealing with a data breach is never easy, but it becomes something more, I guess, easier to manage once you've covered the plot holes and the questions in advance. Absolutely.
Yeah, it's all about thinking. I mean, so much in security is thinking about, well, what is the worst that could happen? And if that did happen, what would I do? It's kind of akin to having a fire. And in a fire, you know what number you need to phone to get the experts out and have people on available to sort out the fire. It's exactly the same thing with a cyber breach. Know what numbers you're going to phone, and I think fire insurance again is kind of similar to cyber security. We want to have all of the solutions, everything which is necessary already in place. There will be a residual risk in terms of damage and potentially fines and restoring systems. That's the bit that you want to ensure. For the rest of it, you may well find that you get a better return on investment in investing in prevention so that it doesn't happen, rather than investing in a larger package of cybersecurity, so you get a payout if the worst does happen. I mean, look very, very carefully about simple things such as backup solution. You may well find out that a little bit of money invested in having a slightly better backup solution is going to give you a much, much better return on investment than planning for the day that you're going to lose all your company's data and you're going to get a payout at some point.
Yeah, that's great advice. And worth reiterating possibly the communication aspect. You talked earlier about involving everybody, all the different departments on your journey to what happens should a data breach occur. I've heard stories recently of companies wanting to try practice runs and being met with the feedback as, oh, we can't possibly try that. That'll be really disruptive. Well, better to try in a safe environment where, rather than a situation that can possibly go out of our hands.
And it doesn't have to be like a full fire alarm. You can actually walk through it in the steps and just, do a tabletop exercise and just discuss it. It doesn't have to be a full-on, hands-on simulated incident. There are many different ways that you can actually rehearse. Simply walking through the steps, through a checklist and making sure you've got everything in place, through to involving other groups and giving them heads up of, would you be happy to contribute to this? And so again, you can walk it through to having a full-on simulated emergency, which may well be quite disruptive, but again, not necessarily a bad thing to do.
Yeah, absolutely. It's we want to empower people to have the confidence to know what to do, rather than to scare people and frighten people, which never works. So just to wrap up, just in case anyone is interested. Could you talk about the Cisco Talos incident response and our intelligence on demand service? What are the main benefits to customers there?
So yeah, we now offer incident response capability through Talos. So it's our analysts who perform the incident response capability. So for our product, what you do is you buy a certain number of hours, of analyst hours, and hopefully you won't encounter an emergency so that you need to use those analyst hours for recovery. But if you're lucky enough, fortunate enough not to need those hours which they don't go to waste, they don't evaporate, and you have to buy a new bucket of hours that you don't use. We've got a whole range of services that you can use those hours towards. So if you don't suffer a breach, you can use those analyst hours exactly for preparing your plans, help draw up your plans and your playbooks so that everyone knows exactly what he's going to do, what's going to happen in emergency. We can use those hours to conduct simulated attacks, from just tabletop exercise through to doing purple team penetration testing and actually assisting your operations people in managing an attack. Or indeed, you can use the hours for intelligence on demand. If there's stuff that you'd like to know about the threat landscape, or you have specific questions, you can use your hours to ask us questions and pose us things, research projects that you'd like to know from us.
Excellent. So yeah, if anyone is interested, we'll put a link for more information for you in the description as well. That is all for today. Thank you very much for sharing your advice and your insights, Martin. We will be back next month with another topic to tackle. But in the meantime, do share this video if you find it useful and get in touch with the Cisco team if there's anything that we can help with. Subscribe to blog.talosintelligence.com for all the latest threat-related news. And we will see you next time for the EMEA Talos Monthly Update. Take care.